She responded with a simple, no, reinforcing the notion of their alliance. Lord Alice fell silent for a moment, her voice barely audible as she responded with a resounding, no. She emphasized that the events that unfolded held no purpose for her. The fate of their existence and the planet was intertwined, and if they failed to save the world, they would all perish together. Luo, still hopeful, questioned why Lord Alice, being a goddess, couldn't change the course of events. However, she remained resolute in her decision not to interfere in human affairs. Lord Alice explained that humans often naively believed that a hero or deity would emerge to rescue them from impending doom, but it was the humans themselves who had made the mistakes without repenting or changing their ways. She spoke directly to Luo, pointing out his own desire for someone else to solve the problems at hand, labeling it as naive and laughable. Luo recalled Lord Alice's earlier statement that only humans could stop the destruction of the Earth. In an attempt to provide him with a clue, she mentioned the prevalence of sickness among humans. Perplexed, Luo didn't grasp the full meaning behind her words. Lord Alice delved deeper into the incident involving the two men who had died, revealing their involvement in the robbery. She touched Luo's forehead, granting him a vision of the events that had transpired. Stunned by what he witnessed, Luo realized the extent of the sickness that plagued the world. Lord Alice asserted that the world was sick because humans were sick, and this illness would continue to spread, much like a virus. She commanded Luo to eliminate these viruses that caused the Earth's sickness. However, Luo refused, stating that he couldn't take on the role of a judge and executioner. He believed that those who committed wrongdoings should face the judgment of the law. Lord Alice then proposed the idea of granting him the authority to carry out such actions. But Luo stood firm, expressing that he was unwilling to accept the superpower if it meant he had to kill others. He called out to her, urging Lord Alice to consider reclaiming his superpower. She admitted that she had underestimated Luo and revealed that she had been testing him. She commended him for passing the test and informed him that she had decided to raise his ranking in the selection of superpower users. This news brought joy to Luo, but Lord Alice added that he would need to complete more missions to maintain his elevated ranking. Seeing Luo's displeasure, she teased him by suggesting that she could lower his ranking instead. However, Luo expressed his gratitude and refused her offer, thanking her for her kindness. Curious about his powers, Luo asked Lord Alice if there were other abilities besides transforming objects into babes and if there were alternative methods to utilize his powers. Lord Alice admitted that she wasn't entirely sure herself since she wasn't omnipotent. She had only granted him a small portion of her soul authority, which functioned like game permissions, allowing him to gain superpowers. The specific abilities he awakened and how to use them were not within her realm of concern. Lord Alice then noticed a girl standing at Luo's door and inquired if she was his girlfriend. Confused, Luo looked back but didn't see anyone. Just then, he heard a knock on his door, and it was Zhang Yun. Wondering why she had suddenly come to his house, Luo felt unsure of what to do with Lord Alice still present. He told Zhang to give him a moment, claiming that he was putting on his pants. Turning to Lord Alice, he asked if it would be inconvenient for someone to see her, given that his friend had come to visit. Lord Alice assured him that it was not a problem and urged him to go and open the door. Luo opened the door and apologized for keeping Zhang waiting. She entered his house, and Luo asked if there was a specific reason she had come looking for him. Zhang noticed Lord Alice sitting there, prompting further intrigue. Silence filled the room as they stood there for a while. Zhang broke the silence, referring to something that was said earlier. She accused him of being shameless for bringing a girl home and undressing in front of her. Zhang taunted him, questioning if he was living up to Yazora's expectations with such behavior and calling him incorrigible. Luo denied any wrongdoing, but Zhang remained skeptical, not believing his explanation. Trying to divert the situation, Luo introduced Lord Alice as a distant relative who was visiting for a few days. He lied, claiming that Lord Alice was his cousin, trying to protect her identity. Lord Alice remained silent throughout this exchange, unsure of how to react. Zhang, attempting to be polite, introduced herself as Luo's classmate and inquired about Lord Alice's name. Quick on her feet, Luo intervened, hurriedly responding with the name, Xiao. Lord Alice played along, making it less awkward for everyone. Luo explained that his cousin enjoyed imitating people from ancient times, which was the reason for her unusual way of speaking. Deep inside, he felt grateful for Lord Alice's cooperation and kindness. Suddenly, a little kitten came bounding towards Zhang. In an attempt to catch it, Lord Alice grabbed its tail, causing the cat to scratch her hand with its claws. Both Luo and Zhang reacted with concern, worried about the injury. Lord Alice frowned, clearly upset about the scratch. Luo quickly defended her, explaining that the cat scratched her out of fear when she grabbed its tail unexpectedly. Zhang asked Luo if he had any alcohol disinfectant and a band-aid to treat the wound urgently. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Luo decided to go downstairs and buy the items. In the meantime, Zhang and Lord Alice engaged in conversation about Luo, during which it became evident that Zhang had feelings for him. Lord Alice gently touched Zhang's face and noticed that it had turned red. Concerned, she asked if Zhang was feeling unwell. Just as Luo returned, he noticed the two of them seemingly engaged in a cheerful conversation. Curious, Luo inquired about the topic of their discussion. In that moment, Lord Alice was about to reveal Zhang's secret affection for Luo, but Zhang quickly covered her mouth to prevent her from speaking. Luo handed the band-aid he had bought to Lord Alice, who used it to treat the scratch on her hand. Zhang advised her to keep the wound dry and assured her that it would heal in a few days. Luo then asked Zhang about the reason for her visit. Zhang explained that she had come to Luo's house due to the aftermath of an accident where 2 people had died. Earlier that morning, she had received a call from the police officer who had questioned them during that incident. The officer had asked her some strange questions, leading her to visit Luo's house. During the call, the officer inquired about Luo's actions at the time of the incident. Zhang had deliberately withheld the information about Luo running away, stating that he had merely been a spectator. She found the officer's line of questioning peculiar, as he seemed to imply that Luo had some connection to the matter. In reality, Luo did have some involvement, although he had not anticipated anyone suspecting him. The situation struck him as highly unusual. Zhang warned Luo to be extremely cautious. After bidding them farewell, she left the house. Lord Alice urged Luo to be wary of the police officer, as it was possible that others had already begun to suspect something. She hinted that there might be ants, informants, who had gathered information. With a sense of impending danger, Luo resolved to be on guard and take precautions. Luo sat at home, accompanied by Lord Alice. She began to explain something important to him, emphasizing that there were many intelligent ants in the world. Some of these ants possessed heightened sensitivity and were capable of connecting various situations based on past events. Lord Alice specifically referred to the policeman they had encountered earlier. This revelation surprised Luo, as he had only met the officer once. Lord Alice corrected him, explaining that they had actually interacted multiple times, which had drawn the officer's attention to him. However, Luo couldn't recall any of these encounters. Lord Alice warned him to be cautious when meeting strangers and advised him not to remain oblivious when unexpected situations arose. Just then, she dropped another bombshell. Lord Alice declared that she would be staying in his house for the time being. This news left Luo in shock, as he hadn't anticipated such a decision from her. Lord Alice explained that she had important divine duties to attend to and would need to use her divine sense as a goddess, which required her to remain close to Luo. Leaving Luo momentarily, Lord Alice descended to the lower level of the house. From there, she called out to Luo, referring to him as a mortal, and instructed him to go about his normal mortal activities. Feeling a pang of hunger, Luo decided to cook something for himself. As Lord Alice woke up from her rest, she announced that she had already prepared a superpower special training session for Luo. With renewed enthusiasm, she encouraged him to embark on this training, hinting at the development of extraordinary abilities that awaited him. Luo repeated the phrase in disbelief, special superpower training. Lord Alice confirmed that she had indeed arranged a series of special lessons to unlock his superpowers. However, she refused to disclose the details just yet, teasing him to wait until they began. Luo and Lord Alice sat together, sharing a meal. Aware that Lord Alice would be staying in his house for some time, Luo suggested they inform others that she was his distant relative to prevent unnecessary questions or speculation. Lord Alice agreed to his suggestion, understanding his concerns. Lost in his thoughts about his late sister, Luo seemed distant. Lord Alice noticed his change in demeanor and asked if something was wrong. Luo reassured her, stating that he was simply reminiscing about the time he had spent with his sister. He shared that when he was very young, he had a sister who passed away shortly after birth. The details surrounding her death were unclear, and even his parents didn't have a clear memory of what had happened. This fact puzzled Luo, as it seemed strange that his parents could not recall the reason for his sister's passing, considering he was too young to remember. Lord Alice raised her hand, conjuring a flash of the earth encircled by a glowing ring. She explained that she had the ability to access the world records, containing comprehensive details about everything that had happened. Luo was amazed by her power. Lord Alice asked Luo if he remembered anything about what her mother had experienced during her pregnancy. However, Luo was too young at the time and couldn't recall any details. Lord Alice informed him that she couldn't find any records pertaining to her mother, indicating that something must have influenced or altered the information. She promised Luo that she would investigate the matter further, but warned him that the debt he would owe her would only grow larger as a result. Luo called out to Xiao Shi, the name he had given Lord Alice, announcing that the superpower training would take place at their current location. He couldn't believe his eyes when he realized they were standing at a tourist spot, seemingly high above the ground. He asked Lord Alice what he was supposed to train on, feeling a wave of fear as he looked down. Luo silently pleaded with Lord Alice not to suggest walking on a tightrope or anything similarly dangerous. As his legs grew weak, he glanced to his side and noticed a commotion. A group of people was quarreling, and one girl accused another guy of touching her buttocks. The girl's boyfriend, enraged by the insult directed at him, attempted to throw a punch. However, the other guy swiftly blocked his punch and retaliated with a strong blow, causing the girl to cry out in distress. Luo intervened in the escalating confrontation, announcing that he had already called the police, who would arrive soon. The guy involved in the dispute questioned Luo's sudden appearance, and in his anger, he punched Luo, causing him to nearly lose his balance. As Luo stumbled, his phone slipped from his pocket and soared through the air, landing on the ground below the tourist spot. In a moment of panic, Luo called out Yazora's name as he watched his phone descend. Filled with anger, Luo grabbed onto the guy's clothes, yelling at him for causing his phone to fall. The guy, misunderstanding the situation, dismissed the incident as merely a useless phone that could be replaced with money. Luo, however, insisted that it wasn't about the monetary value of the phone. There was something more significant at stake. As Yazora fell in front of Luo's eyes, he desperately reminded the guy that the phone wasn't just an object. It was Yazora, his precious companion. The guy, making light of the situation, joked that Luo seemed to have developed feelings for his phone. Fueled by anger, Luo's eyes turned red, and he tightened his grip on the guy. Alice stood by, observing the escalating confrontation. In a fit of rage, Luo declared that the guy had killed Yazora. Mockingly, the guy questioned how Luo could let a mere phone dictate the hardships he would face in life. In response, Luo vowed that someone like him should disappear from the world and experience the pain of losing Yazora. Suddenly, Luo's anger boiled over, and he grabbed the guy by the neck, hurling him away. The guy fell and died, leaving the surrounding witnesses shocked and screaming about murder. Alice snapped her fingers, causing the people around them to freeze in place. She delivered a heavy slap to Luo's face, reminding him of what he had just done. He had killed someone. Shocked and confused, Luo realized that he had thrown the guy off the bridge, fearing the consequences of his actions as a young person. Alice reminded Luo that a great existence stood before him, offering a potential solution. Overwhelmed, Luo pleaded for any way to undo what had just happened. Alice explained that there would be a price to pay for reversing time, and she asked Luo if he was aware of the consequences he would face. Fearful and desperate, Luo begged Alice for a solution, desperately hoping to avoid being arrested for murder at such a young age. Alice acknowledged his plea but emphasized that helping him would also come at a price. With trepidation, Luo expressed his desire to return to the moment just 3 minutes prior. Deep within his mind, he wondered why he had lost consciousness and felt as if something else had been controlling him. Alice posed the critical question: did Luo understand the price he would have to pay for reversing time? Alice informed Luo that reversing time for the entire Earth would come at a significant cost, possibly even his life. She asked him to carefully consider if he wanted to proceed. After contemplating the consequences, Luo made the decision to go ahead and have time reversed. Lord Alice initiated the reversal, and everything returned to its previous state. The people who were quarreling were back in their original positions, and Luo checked his pocket to find his phone safely there. Relieved, he took it out. Alice swiftly instructed Luo to quickly resolve the situation. He approached the person he had thrown off the bridge before the reversal and knocked him out. Luo promptly called for security, reporting that someone had fallen and needed assistance. The security personnel arrived and took the unconscious person away. After the time reversal, Alice began to feel unwell. Luo carried her on his back and they made their way to a rest area at the foot of the mountain. Luo suggested he go and buy water for her, but Alice insisted that she needed a place to rest and told him not to worry about getting water. Luo then brought her to a nearby hotel to provide her with a comfortable place to rest. Sensing her discomfort, Luo asked if it was a result of the time reversal. However, Alice shushed him and explained that someone had used their powers to manipulate him, amplifying his negative emotions and causing him to lose control. Luo briefly recalled feeling an intense surge of rage but couldn't remember the events that followed. Alice suggested that the person responsible might be another superpower user like him. In that moment, Alice stood up and reminded Luo of the reason they had set out together, to train his powers. Lord Alice asked Luo about his feelings when his phone fell down, and he expressed surprise, anger, sadness, and pain because the phone represented Yuzora to him. Alice pointed out that he had developed feelings not only for Yuzora but also for other items. She then questioned whether he was curious about why he obtained his ability. According to Alice, everything in the world has a reason, and there are no coincidences. Everything has its cause and effect. She revealed that she had granted Luo a portion of her power, specifically the deepest desire in his heart. This realization made Luo contemplate the significance of her words. Luo began to reminisce about his childhood when he often found himself alone at home while his parents went to work. He remembered his friend Zhaolin, with whom he could only spend time occasionally. The feeling of loneliness had lingered within him, even after he moved into his current apartment. Lord Alice explained that although he had felt tremendous loneliness as a child, he had subconsciously desired companionship and care from others. It was this intense desire that gave him the superpower to transform objects into living beings. Curiously, Luo asked why all the transformed objects were girls. Alice replied that it was simply his preference, as everything in his room was filled with girls. However, she suddenly coughed and realized that her recovery was taking longer than expected. Realizing that she needed to delve into something crucial, she got up and told Luo to wait for her return. In an instant, she disappeared. Left alone, Luo decided to take a shower. As he was in the bathroom, he heard a sound and witnessed a portal opening up before him. To his shock, Lord Alice fell through the portal and landed on the floor, her body covered in wounds.